What is your reality with customer service in our public healthcare system? 1 hour, 2 hours, sometimes 10, 15 hours before a doctor, nurse, porter come attend to you. Allow me to tell Jamaica. What is your reality being at Cornwall Regional Hospital? Mandeville. Which hospital again? Spanish Town, KPH, Jubilee, Children. Many people have spoken to me. Call me and tell me, boy Andre, nurse disrespect them, porter disrespect them, doctor not attend to them. This is the reality that many ordinary Jamaicans have faced. Them say if you not carry big name, if you not have big title, nobody no come attend to you. Nobody no come to say, boy. But then, there is an infrastructural issue where we don't have enough resources to deal with the patients. So we need to question. Roger and I will dissect that, Is public health care, free health care, affecting how we respond to health service delivery in Jamaica? Is it right to say we need to end free health care? Or is it a case that we as Jamaicans need to improve service delivery? Do we need to improve how we deal with customers, interface with customers? We're going to dissect today through our customer care specialists. Do we have enough training happening in our healthcare system for our frontline workers, middle managers, and top-tier management? That's what we're going to get today. So today on Unfiltered Jamaica, what is your reality? Tell me now. You get the bed in time? You have the cut on your diabetic foot. Were you attended to? You have cancer. Did somebody come and attend to you? Or you had to wait 10, 15 hours up to a day, Jamaica? That discussion is going to happen on Unfiltered this day. We need to know, is customer service being delivered in an efficient way, practical way, and a human interest way? That's what we're going to discuss today. So Roger is going to join me and we carry that discussion today. What is true customer service in our public healthcare system? What have you experienced, Jamaica? I've heard so many stories, Roger, of people waiting for a bed, waiting to be attended by a nurse or a healthcare worker. Nobody looking out for their interest. Boy, lad it hot. But, Roger, why can't Jamaica improve on the standards of true customer service? What's your take? Have you ever been in a hospital?
I have been, and I have seen instances where the wait is almost unbelievable. Unbelievable. And my take on it is, I think, as much as we begin to criticize customer service, we ought to criticize ourselves. I think we are largely the disruptor in the system of order. You know why? Most Jamaicans don't believe in forming lines. That is the key and the core of customer service, to patiently wait your turn. Yeah, but so one, we don't believe in forming lines, so we will actually expect to go to a. Can you imagine people don't believe in joining line? Yeah, so you go to a place and you see a line. Your natural instinct is to find somebody who you know to see if you can actually beat the line, right? Those things derails and it actually corrupts the whole system of good customer service.
Yeah, but then you need to know, face the reality that you are in a line waiting, like many Jamaicans. That's true, them not really love waiting in a line.
We don't love line.
But
all of the line short, we don't love line.
But Roger, imagine you can't breathe.
Yes.
You need oxygen. Who is there on the front line to assess that this patient is really in some position? If they don't get some assistance now, you can have, in less than 10-15 minutes, a dying patient.
But I would think,
so I believe that despite them not waiting in lines, they don't have the reality of frontline workers who are there to assess the critical conditions. Up to you have 20 patients. Who is there, Roger, to assess that this one is a priority patient?
In my experience, and this is a limited experience, there are filters within the hospital that actually look at whether or not it's an emergency case. Who can stay, who don't need bed right now, and who would absolutely need bed.
But then
the unfortunate thing is, because of Jamaica's reality, gunshots, machete chop, and those other kind of drama are more likely to take precedence over people who may actually have other internal issues, who may need help. So you may have some persons who are dying on chairs, dying on sitting down in waiting rooms because of the nature of the Jamaican system and healthcare issues. We are short-staffed,
under-resourced.
We have limited resources, and we tend to have to give priority to the drama, the crime, the violence, those kind of domestic violence issues.
I have had people who call me, Roger, for instance, at Maypen Hospital. I went call out the hospitals today. You know. The man said, him call me, he's diabetic, you know, Roger. Him call me and said, he's there for some time, waiting, nobody attending to him. And they never even have the basic things to attend to him. To the point that when they did the surgery, maggot eating out his body.
Whoa.
And it's called him up to call somebody I'm yard for some screw worm powder to kill out the maggot them off him foot. And Cornwall Regional Hospital, you hear they saying they don't have linens, they don't have beds, they don't even have surgical tape to carry out. So then I want to wonder and I question, even in COVID, we heard of the realities that hospitals never had oxygen. This is a serious crisis on the land. So it is not just customer service, it's also a matter of infrastructure.
Agree. Infrastructure, policy, and personnel. Because I also think that we need to relook this idea when we talk about free healthcare. Listen, government, I know everybody in truth should get free healthcare. I'm sorry, but we need to begin to say, if it is that you are working, if you're working as a teacher, if you're working at a certain level, you have to pay a little bit of money so that people who actually can't afford healthcare can actually access it. So what you actually do is to fold the hospitals of people, and you don't have the resource to take care of them. It makes no sense to have free healthcare. Because number one, if you really want good health care, you have to go to private service. It makes no sense.
So you're saying we should look on the policies of government to say whether or not has free health care affected the service delivery in our hospitals?
It has. It is causing issues with morale. It is actually depleting resources because it's overused and it's not being replaced. It's understaffed. Those who are there staffed are overworked because those prime positions, the specialists, etc. They come in barely, they leave.
But I'm going to ask
it pressures everybody else in the system.
A pressing issue is, Roger, millions were sent to Jamaica to aid us through European Union, through grant funding, through many of our international partners, including the COVID funds. And you're going to say to me that our basic hospitals didn't even have oxygen to service its people. Where are the money? Where's the money to service the infrastructure that we're talking about?
Well, oxygen, to be fair, Andre, the oxygen issue happened because of one, the logistics issue that was happening at that
it's
time
not
in the
logistics.
world.
The government
to
of
gain
Jamaica,
oxygen, to buy it, to procure it at that time, it was in high demand across the world. I suspect that is why we had it. It wasn't a several case. It wasn't a case where it happened more than once. It was one big moment in the COVID period where it happened. And I don't think it's a case where we should label that as bad customer service. Because we have enough bad customer service to talk about in hospitals and in health facilities other than that particular issue.
But the truth that you and I must admit that even though you're saying it happened in an international pandemic, during the pandemic. Jamaica shouldn't have reached there. Jamaica shouldn't have reached there. And even if we had to reach there, we needed to communicate to Jamaica that the pandemic is seriously upon us, and these are things that are possibly going to happen. If Jamaicans never complained about it, we wouldn't have known.
I love the complaint issue because, again, this is a big issue. We have to get to a point where we name and shame.
Name and shame.
Name and shame. Because it's not okay anymore. Because the reality in Jamaica is good customer service seems to be relegated to only some people. Some people with name, some people with background, some people with class and creed, some people will drive certain car. Right? For the most part, most of us have to suffer the indignity.
True.
And the weight. And just pray to God we don't dead before somebody find we. That is not okay in a country where you were born and grown. It's not okay, and it's time for people to start taking action, taking their own power, and speaking truth to power. We have to begin to do that.
The actions that need to be taken, are simple, You can't be at a hospital and you see 50 people in front of you, and you don't even put in your human interest to say, sir, madam, we so attend to you. These are simple things that can change the reality of many Jamaicans, who go into the hospital system. And the truth is, if we can have a discussion about, is it a reality that ever since we introduced free healthcare, we have seen a serious reduction in the service of quality in our hospital systems? Was Jamaica ready to accommodate free healthcare? That's where we need to carry the discussion. Are we ready for were we ready to deal with the realities that came with COVID? I think not. Were we ready to service those who come on the front line? Were the frontline workers adequately briefed on how to respond? These are all cases, Jamaica, that we in Jamaica faced and are facing consecutively. So outside of COVID, Jamaica, we still have a crisis in healthcare. Nurses not able to communicate with patients. Patient care workers, porters, sometimes have a myriad of problems that make them who they are and the responses that we get. So we need to now look at, has free healthcare affected where we are today? Probably we need to make those who can pay, because the reality is the response that we get on the front line makes me question, is healthcare in a crisis? Look at Cornwall Regional Hospital. Look at the issue at Spanish Town Hospital. Look at the issue at KPH. These issues make me question, is healthcare in a crisis? Is healthcare in a crisis? I believe the crisis is evident. But if we revise free healthcare, possibly we'll see some increases in the response to the frontline workers and patients. So Roger, Fabian will join us, who is a customer service specialist, and he's going to zoom in on customer service in the public healthcare system. Stay tuned. So Jamaica, today we have Mr. Fabian Thomas, a transformational coach, facilitator, and a customer service specialist. Mr. Thomas, how are you, sir?
I'm good and I plan to be better.
Oh. What is the customer service reality in Jamaica?
It's a... Yeah, go ahead.
I'm asking, what's the customer service reality in Jamaica? Because when I go to a hospital, for instance, I would find me sitting there for 4, 5, 6 hours. No doctor or nurse attending to the patient. And people are in aches, pain, nobody there. Sometimes you have the people on the ground. Sometimes you have the people in the chair who really needs assistance. What is the reality of customer service in Jamaica?
I think one of the major challenges we have is it depends on where you go, who you are, and what you have access to.
where you go,
and
who you are,
and what you have access to.
So for you, if you're a poor man, you're going to suffer. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate reality in Jamaica. If you can only access at a certain level. So we've been really affected by the plantation, by slavery, by color, by class, and by the way our society is set up. That if you're a have-not, you're going to have less, your road going to be harder. But if you can pay a certain money to go into an air-conditioned space where somebody waits in your hand and foot as you're coming in, that's going to be your reality. And that's something that is plaguing us at this very moment.
So you're saying, if I go to Spanish Town Hospital, the hard reality is no money, you don't come from background that your family have name and title. Well, at Spanish Town Hospital, if you're in crisis, I don't think you're going to go to Spanish Town. But if you're going to University of the West Indies and you are faced with going on with 22 swings, the reality is you get through immediately.
Right, or quicker. And here's the reality: you have people in those spaces, that working hard, that have straw baskets to carry water, but they do not have the resources anywhere near the other hospital. So you have people who are going above and beyond, but they don't have the facility. You have hospitals where when a patient eat food, they have to wait to take a plate, to wash it so other patient can eat because there's not enough plates.
What you said?
Cups to feed the children. Yes, this is a reality.
Will you just repeat that, Mr. Thomas?
Walk in the ward. People have to be walking the ward to collect back the utensils.
In Jamaica? So you're saying there is not enough utensils to service the patients on the ward?
In some of our hospitals, very much so. And let me tell you, I learned this from training people. So when you train people now, and most of the people I'm going to say want to do their best, are pushing. Let me tell you, they might kill up themselves. Some of them are dropped down, but a lot of them have straw basket to carry water. Roof a leak where better to move so patient not wet up.
Whoa.
When rain fall, and that's been going on for years in some of the hospitals. It's crazy.
Roof a leak.
It really is insane.
Mr. Thomas.
So when rain start fall, you have to move the bed from this.
No, it's not anything to laugh about. So our healthcare system is in some serious crisis, Roger.
Yeah. Mr. Thomas, I want to touch on this issue because I think you've spoken to it, and I think it's important for us to give character to the health workers. Our health workers, nurses, for example, or doctors and other staff within hospitals, are they exposed to customer service, or there's a perception that if you're a nurse or a doctor, you don't need that? Is it an emphasis in hospitals for patients? I know that there's something called bedside manner, etc., etc. But is there an intentional approach for healthcare workers to be trained in customer service?
Yes, and plenty of it. But here's one of the challenges we have in the healthcare space, which I find we have a lot throughout Jamaica. There tends to be this assumption that you must train at the bottom level, what they call the bottom level, the line staff. So a lot of times those people are actually overtrained.
Oh.
The assumption is if you're functioning at a certain level, if you're getting a certain salary, then you don't need training. And a lot of times that is so not the case.
Whoa.
So a lot of times the staff say them tired and say, boy, boss, my manager needs to hear this, my supervisor. And a lot of times it's not mean-spiritedness. A lot of times it really is. There's a disconnect. So what should be done, where people should be treated, what people should have access to in terms of tools and resources they do not have. And so it's almost like Mr. Boy, sir, we wish they were our bosses and managers and senior level people were in here so we could have a session with you, with them, where we get to say things we've been saying to them for years.
So you're saying
we get to confront somebody who is at a senior level, who's rude and disrespectful to us, who treats us terribly, but we have to smile and take it. So in some of the hospitals, there's no protective gear for the staff. So if a mentally ill patient comes in and kicks somebody, they have to take a kick because there's no restraint, there's no basics. So they might turn them hand and tear in cloth to maybe restrain people who they know are of unsound mind.
Wow.
There's no protection.
This
It's a really rocky road. And when I'm sometimes in the train, it gets very emotional. Sometimes people break down and cry because they're tired, they're drained, they want to function at a higher level.
So you're of the view. So I'm going to ask you this question, Mr. Thomas. Are you saying that the experiences that many Jamaicans faced with healthcare professionals, particularly the nurses, the porters, is because of being overworked and under-resourced with not having the equipment to deal with patients? Or is it a simple case of no care, them tired, them fed up, so any treatment reach to the patients or people coming in is just the typical?
I think it's a mixture. It's definitely a mixture, because sometimes in some of the trains they tell you that they know there's some staff or colleagues who forget send home.
Wow.
They tell you, them say there's some people who boss them not do good, them not go on good, them not care. So they know, but a lot of times those people don't get fired. We have a thing where we don't get rid of people who we know are, just like in any career, there's some people who should have come out a long time.
So what is the accountability system that is put in place to see that when, for instance, a porter is disrespectful to a patient, a nurse showing no care or sympathy and is reported, and senior managers within the hospital system, the administrators, to reprimand and to put things in place to get rid of these people? What is really happening? Have we ever had a reality of doctors and nurses and porters being fired?
Yes, I've heard it happen, but again, it depends on the hospital, the oversight. Let me say, one of our biggest issues in customer service in Jamaica, in the healthcare system, in our public sector, is management.
Management. So there is not enough
managers on the floor. Why is it sometimes people have to work in double, triple shifts and somebody's sitting in an AC office?
Wow.
And you know you're understaffed, or somebody's out sick, or you know it's a busy day. Why is you say where is the managers on the floor in the trenches with the people, helping them?
So true.
Assisting, and sometimes they know what's going on and the people are struggling sometimes.
So you're saying that you have managers, this is a hardcore reality, that see the people working double, triple, quadruple shifts and nothing being done on their part.
You can usually count on one hand the managers who attempt to make a difference.
My God.
And that's the perception of the people, that it's a handful of managers or supervisors who will say, no man, this can't work, or who will say, I'm going to come work the shift with you. Or, you know, when there's a situation on the floor, I'm going to come down to my office and help with it.
So, Mr. Thomas, help me connect the dots, right? So, without customers, without clients, without patients, it is fair to say people may not have jobs, may not get paid, etc., etc.
But here's the thing,
what is the issue in Jamaica why we have never been able to show customers the respect, the regard, the love, the care they deserve when we are when we expect their money, when we expect remuneration? Why is it that we never can connect to see the relationship, that their health, their peace of mind is important to my own peace of mind and ability to care for my family, etc., etc.? What's the disconnect?
It's a crucial disconnect.
That is a serious problem.
So I'm going to say a lot of the people delivering customer service are aware of that. Want to do their best, want to shine, but become overwhelmed and get lost in a system. But in a lot of customer service, there is a disconnection from my customer is my breath. It's almost like the customer becomes a bother. You know, me tired, me can't bother. So sometimes with training, I have to say to people, customer service is one of the hardest jobs you'll ever do.
True.
And the reality is, no care how bad your boss will treat you, it's not the customer's problem.
Well,
it's rough, but it's real. But so many people, they pass it on to the customer. It becomes part of the work. So the discomfort, the displeasure, the fact that the lunchroom dirty, that there's no air-conditioned space, that the lack of them now work, that people are disrespecting you, filters over into the customer realm. So we get a lot of reactive bad service in Jamaica.
Bad service.
Frustrated, overwhelmed, and figure, I'm going to pass it on to somebody. So I'm full, so I'm going to pass it on to somebody. Whereas in other spaces where the training is different, where the setup is different, there is an intentional understanding of, I must take care of my staff. I must make my staff comfortable. I have to deal with grouses. I have to deal with customer complaints, but also investigate and defend my staff. And in those places, you get different service.
So you're saying there's a domino effect in every aspect
major,
of...
Major.
So...
Some places, when I go into the space, like when I get hired to the training, I like to go in as a secret stopper first to feel the place. And in some spaces, you can feel the despair. You can feel the anger. You can feel the lack of interest. And in other places, the place actually hugs you. In Jamaican, people say good morning and they smile and it's genuine. And a lot of times you can tell that something else is going on in this space. That it may not be perfect, but somebody has their back. Somebody's trying to solve the problem. They're seen as a human being. They're spoken to in complete sentences. And time has been taken not to do a one-off training, but a consistent thing about what customer service means. And that the staff, you delivering the service, are valued as well.
So in all of your years of doing these trainings, Mr. Thomas, do you think senior management and government agencies sees customer service as a priority in budgeting? Do you see government agencies making customer service training a major part of their remodeling for better workers on the front page?
I'm going to say yes and no. I think there's a commitment on paper and in training and money, spending money to the training. And sometimes tick off a training, a training thing, say, oh, we did this. But you see in the reality of the field, so let's be real, in certain spaces, in certain public health spaces, whether it's healthcare or otherwise, you're dealing with people who are more likely to tell you bad words, to people under you, to try to fight you, to spit after you, and people working in those places have no protection. It's open season on them.
So you're saying that even the security professionals are not there?
They're afraid of the clientele that they serve.
Whoa.
Because they know any card can play.
Where say if you're dirt, a dirt.
Abuse, or it's an abusive customer service base. And there's nothing to protect them. There's no, like I said, system, walk the floor, sometimes help diffuse. When the place is busy, come, have somebody who's good with people, make some announcements, make some joke. I kept saying that you have to do different things. Because if people coming off and they were hungry, battered, somebody coming with a black eye, the son gets shot, they're not going to be in the best of moods.
Correct.
And if they feel like them waiting too, they may not have any idea that the people who are waiting for 5 hours before them. So here's the other thing. Our healthcare system did pop down and mash up long before COVID came.
Wow.
COVID came and exaggerated it. The time that people have to wait is ridiculous.
So on average, just this final question.
My father died during COVID, right? And when we went to the hospital, thank you, there were people who had been there. We got there at like 3 p.m., 4 p.m. There are people who had been there from 5 a.m. who were still outside when we got there.
5 a.m.? So,
and it took, my father did not get a bed until 10 p.m. When did we get there? 3 p.m.
And he never got a bed until
10 p.m. And he was in pain, he was uncomfortable. I was in the COVID area with him, and there were people who were there before us.
Whoa. And this is a reality that many Jamaicans are facing on a day-to-day basis.
On a day-to-day basis.
Wow.
But Mr. Thomas, we have to end there. But thanks for giving us such highlight. All right? We appreciate you dissecting the realities of true customer service in Jamaica.
And I want to quickly say there are places, spaces, and Jamaicans who are delivering amazing service. Sometimes through very difficult circumstances.
So for the very few who are doing good, we applaud them. But the many who...
It's not very few.
It's not very few.
It's just that the negative is so negative that it takes over the space.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's your reality, Jamaica? Have you ever been in a case or a scenario like Mr. Thomas, who said he went to the hospital at 3 p.m. and his father got a bed at 10 p.m.? What are your realities? We'll continue on Unfiltered. Jamaica. Having heard what Mr. Thomas described as you have many healthcare workers who have to be walking around picking up utensils to go and feed another part of a ward. You have healthcare workers who have to move bed because water coming, infestation happening there, moles. These are realities that are facing. Then we now need to question, is it that because of the conditions that these workers are working under, is it a case that because they're so gruesome and hostile, they therefore respond to the patients with such hostility? Or is it a case that the patient's not getting enough compensation? Not even the patients, but is it a case that the workers not getting enough compensation so they can respond to the patient? But then, even if they're not getting enough compensation and remuneration, it shouldn't be that there's this level of hostility. So it means that overall, there is a domino effect. The domino effect in which the patient have to wait 10, 15, 24 hours. Then there is the response of the gruesome conditions that they have to be living under, working under, and then what you find. But then we need to also have the discussion and ask this question. Is free healthcare has free healthcare affected the way in which we respond to healthcare in this country? All of that has been dissected, but we can't leave the discussion there. We're going to have a follow-up, and we want you ordinary Jamaicans to tell us on Unfiltered, speak to us, email us, call us, and tell us, what is your reality? Has your reality been one in which your mother died because nobody attended to her in a time frame? Is it a reality that your cousin's foot had to be amputated because there was not enough surgical tools in the hospitals? We want to hear your story. My name is Andre Stevens, and this is Unfiltered. Walk good.